It is a great pleasure that I stand here today to share with you some experiences and some difficulties we had in formulating Papua New Guinea's constitution. The Papua New Guinea Constitution was made by Papua New Guineans who were then members of parliament. Our master trailblazer, Michael Somali, appointed 15 of us to work to formulate a constitution. So we did travel extensively and throughout the country to get the views of our people. Some of the members wanted to go to Africa and Asia. And I, as the de facto chairman, I became de facto chairman because the chief minister's hands were full, as more and more responsibilities from Canada were transferred to Canada. So Martin and de facto chairman. So when our people wanted to go overseas, I said no. I was a priest then. I knew they didn't like it. I wasn't too sure that I was safe by refusing their request to go overseas. Well, I said to them, look, if you want to sew a suit for a Papua New Guinea, you don't go overseas. Go and measure it in the village. Find out exactly what are the sizes, a big bed or good nothing, or whatever kind of money. You go to Asia, I will walk in driver trousers, I will pick it up in the money. I'm sure they didn't like it. But in the end, we all agreed that it was the best decision to spend time in finding out from Papua New Guineans exactly their aspirations, their worries, and their vision for this new country. So, I must say, we had not just a busy time, we also had a very, very enjoyable time. We didn't have too many dances, but we did argue honestly, take one another's views on important matters, and the final analysis, I think we did come to conclusions which all of us felt were fair. Because in any situation where you have differences of opinion, you must consult, and through the process of consultation and engagement, we can reach an agreement that would suit the different points of view. When we came to discuss the necessity or importance of having a leadership role, some then I thought, what way we got Kupla criminal code in after this? Why not a leadership role again? He asked me, why two codes? I had to tell him. And leadership code will lead us. Criminal code will lead us on the areas. Now, he still wasn't convinced. So I said, look, I want to mention his name. I said, look, if they found you under the nurse's house at 2 o'clock in the morning, well dressed, clean cut, white teeth, what are you talking about? Because you know, Brahma, You know, engineer. You think you want to ask? I need to ask for this. In other words, a leader must not only do the right thing, you must also be seen to be doing the right thing. Because the leader is a role model. Young people see the leader and they say, I want to emulate that man. Leader Papa, or leader Papa Lord, or really myself, that Papa Lord spoke about. But he said that Papa Lord is taking members. And we enjoy life members. Very Mama, quickly understand. So leadership, I personally fought hard to include the leadership code in PNG Constitution. Because I value the role and the contribution that leaders make. When they're good leaders, people don't have to go and prove for themselves in detail that this leader is worth what he says he's worth. Or you look at the normal side because of behavior model. And I think there is probably missing today. Ombudsman Commission. I was a very young minister then, in 1976, or 77, sorry. This is the decentralisation. Chief, Salvi Nongoro Suma, meeting Prime Minister of Fiji, and people are strong, well educated. We go down, we talk in Kuskus lawyer, we like being Prime Minister. Now we don't know how Prime Minister is easy to do. So we think now, we cannot ask him. We think now, we think. I said, what would I say to attract it to come and meet me, or for me to meet him? So I told him, I'm a Catholic priest, even though I may not look it. This was why you're talking now. Right tomorrow is a trumpet. So you see, because we have something in common, and we don't get somebody meeting him. So I met him, and they asked him, Prime Minister, what is your view on having a ombudsman commission in the leadership code? He said, you don't need it. You just need good leaders. In that question, that's the big man who must have been there. But fortunately, so Ken Morale and I, Ken was just a young puppy, he was a college person. We were attending a development conference in Suva, attended by people from the Pacific. I met this Kiwi man and he said, what are you doing here? I said, I came to see the Prime Minister, I'm very disappointed. I'll be going back without achieving what I wanted. And he said, what? And I said to him, I'd like to talk about the importance of the leadership code of the ombudsman. He said, oh, well, come and meet the Papa Room ombudsman, don't use here. So he organized for me to meet this man, and he said, don't listen to the Prime Minister of Fiji. He's a good leader, but not all of us are good leaders. We need something to challenge us, to check us, so that we will live up to the standard that good leaders have. So I'm going to give you a minute on this slide. I pay a lot of respect to my colleagues who were elected in 72, and we now down to 75. I think only maybe 6 or 7 still alive. And only 3 members of the Constitutional Planning Committee are still alive: John Momis, and John Momis. When we were making the Constitution, people were saying, what are we going to do are we going to develop good roads, good government, country? I said no. We are going to develop men. We are going to talk, if we don't develop men, we cannot develop roads and countries. Man is the masterpiece, the pinnacle of God's creation. He's not only the masterpiece, he is also a co-creator. God himself, in his wisdom, decided to give him that power to transform this world. This university develops intellectual capability development. I'm not sure whether this university conscientizes the students to appreciate the importance of values and principles. It is not enough to be well educated. I'm sorry, don't misunderstand, it's important. But if you have a highly educated person, but who care less about values and principles, then it's not a good leader, it's not a good person. We must have well-educated, highly disciplined, and people who value others. Thomas Aquinas said, politics is the noblest of sciences, because it is through politics that one can do the most good, and vice versa, through the abuse or misuse of politics, one can do the most evil. Politics and House of Representatives, Parliament. Many of us are Christians, or we belong to some religion. We make sure we take care of our personal relationship with our God. And when that's done, we also want to take necessary steps to ensure that our interpersonal relationship with the community is well taken care of. I'm a member of the community, therefore I must also care for the community. I can't just look after myself. And unfortunately, most of us stop at that level. There is another level which I believe is probably is just as important, and perhaps more important. And that is the public dimension of human existence. And the place where you address that the best is the Parliament, where you make good laws, good policies, create good institutions to serve not just your friends and your one-tops, but to serve the whole nation, the whole Kabuto Papua New Guinea. And when you do that, you fulfill the commandment, love God and love your neighbor. Because everybody is your neighbor. And you will do nothing from Sunday or Sabbath. And you think you take care of yourself and keep you and God from you. And when you think of others, when you have time to think of them, you just worry about the people that you know who are in the neighborhood. But this world doesn't just belong to you and your neighborhood. Papua New Guinea belongs to all of us. So members of Parliament are in the best position to help Papua New Guineans. Come out with the law, you are in Moritama. You come out with law, you kill Moritama. And those three levels of engagement must happen simultaneously. So you have a problem of simultaneity. Make sure you take care of these three levels at the same time. So then go lo tu natin o sa atin ang malolo. Lo tu natin yung nararamdaman ko. Now leaders don't need to leader. Lo tu tingin nararamdaman neighborhood tingin country too. Tingin Bogey, tingin Manus, tingin Wanimo. We have an amazing country. It seems it is a conglomeration of tribes and linguistic groups, but it is a rainbow country. It's a country of great diversity in terms of languages, cultures, and so on and so forth. And we can create a union out of this diversity. Not by imposing uniformity, as former Prime Minister did when he changed the organic law on provincial governments. We drew all the powers from the provinces and made the provinces totally powerless, totally dependent on a highly centralized and bureaucratized government. No wonder Papua New Guinea will become so dependent on white now. Roman Salvador, Enda province, Mount Island, Western Island, every province. Roman Salvador, Central province, from Unity, North Vietnam. Maskia Masala, you are powerless. You are from Luke, Casino, Papa, Lipikaika. We are meant to be agents to change and development. And not be a recipient of social services, vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation and dehumanization. When you dissemble our people, you dehumanize them. Our job in 1972 to 1975 was to liberate Papua New Guineans, empower them, and create a unity out of this diversity. But it's a rich diversity. Some people was like, so as a school law, as a new plan, he would become the best courtroom barrister. You cannot beat him of argument. But we are not started to do. I forgot the exact year, we were debating Bougainville's Court of Independence. Bougainville like a republic. So Peter, you have like a buka, one or no. Ito, buka Bougainville like a republican. You are a civic, you like a republican. He's a good man. And I think, honestly, he must have. He would have been one of the best members of Parliament. You know, in the start, he was a good churchman. Mando Lotua, Maso Tuba, and Papa Roti, I don't know whether you know. One time on the last one, you were painting graffiti on wall of the church, we came out on the radio, and I thought, now you're writing graffiti, come on, put a fight. We are a good man. Another question we had was what was for me to not to spoil the book. We had another member, an old man, he wasn't too sure on his feet. He wanted to ask a question, he was going like this. Mr. Speaker, I asked when you were shooting your last side. Sorry. Speaker, I thought. If someone asks you a question, So he stood up and said, me out to talk peace about. Did I ask a question? No. And he forgot the name of the minister. Minister for Health. So did I ask him a question? No. Boy, Bukaya. Boy, Bukaya, the man was born out. Excuse me, talk with the man. You don't need to talk. You talk. Now you see, because I don't know yet. They were funny, but they were very intelligent. They were not as well educated as you, but they were very intelligent. They knew how to keep the debates going, and they understood human nature. And as a result, Papua New Guinea has one of the best constitutions in the world. The 5 national goals and directive principles are what do I say? You know that about the Constitution, you have this part of the national goals and directive principles. First goal, integral human development, holistic development. Development of man, you know, Saben as well. You know, Lubut as well. You must like in our man, you must get good capacity. You can call it a man. Integral human development. Second goal, equality and participation. Very, very important. In this country of great diversity, you cannot impose uniformity. If you think you can impose uniformity and there and thus force us to be united, you will have it in common. Equality and participation. Man must participate in the process of development and in the process of governance. Look at you, man, on you are now. Why go on to not to the one of the government? Ask you about it. Participation. This is the inalienable right. Even God himself, as we talk Pastor here, and we talk, man, he must have right to participate in creating this world. When Adam and Eve were here, there were no jet planes, there were no watches, and money proves man is a co-creator. God himself decided to share his power with man. Man is endowed with 2 important faculties, namely intellect and will. And those faculties differentiate him from other animals. And irrational and irrational animals. So man can do wonders. This university must produce the young men of Papua New Guinea who will accept the responsibility to develop this great nation and maintain its diversity. Don't impose uniformity for God's sake. Diplomats have all kinds of references, that is all kinds of possible. That's why in fact we talk when we were formulating the Constitution, people say, what do we talk about? What do we develop? Now we want to develop in manifesto. And we develop in man and a good man, a good leader, and a develop a road and a bridge to our country. When we neglect man becomes a victim of modernization because we have neglected it. In Golden Bill, in the PNG government made a big mistake. They deleted Chapter 10 from the Constitution. When the Constituent Assembly was written, Chapter 10 was critical. Golden Bill was already disappointed that CRA and colonial Australian colonial administration collaborated with CRA to exploit the Papua landowners. Everybody else was spending a lot of money except the landowners, whose resources were being exploited and used for the benefit of everybody else except themselves. As a priest, I took a plunge in human affairs and found myself in the midst of the landowners who were powerless in the face of political and ideological incursion from Australia, from CIA, and the colonial. I took that strong step to let me know that ground our landlords. And when DCA was making a lot of money, landlords were getting pittance. So when I got, that's how I was elected. I didn't, I was a priest, I never thought of becoming a politician. But because of the social justice that I studied, when I was studying, the people in Lusaka, United Church, SDA Catholic, particularly I went to the home before. But they don't have a bishop, don't have people like this, a member. Bishop said no. And partly I really not member. The people said, yes, people are silent about that. That's what people are doing. You wrong or stop them when you don't want member. So they forced his hands, and he reluctantly allowed me to stand. So I was catapulted from the bush to the national politics because of what I was doing to defend the powerless. Those who owned the resources, but who had no power. We were at the mercy of others. So the work of liberation started then. And I met Chief Somari outside in the shadows of the great Christ the King Cathedral in Wheeler. Leo Hennett, Iglesias Kilane, from Chibu, Alex Visare, and me. We went there and we met the upper church, Somali saw us. Of course, somebody must have briefed him who we were. So he comes to us and says, hey, Obuka, you don't know. You have to come in here. And we told him we were seminarians, we were here to do some pastoral work. And he said, oh, Bisare, you're going to want Mary here, you're going to want Mary, you're cooking book like that. Come to the house for me, but by the cooking book like that, that's how we met Somali in 1965. He took us to the base of Woodward Hill, where his house was and still is. And we had a barbecue, and as we talked around, we drank beer. In no time we talked about self-determination. The inalienable right of man to determine his own destiny. Whether he's ready or not does not matter. When he makes up his mind, he will get ready. Little did we know we were talking to the Prime Minister. Little did you know that we were talking to the future Prime Minister. And little did we know that the three of us ended up working with him. Kilaya became the Chief Ombudsman, the Governor General, Leo Hannett became a special advisor on Bougainville, and he actually helped us, because I recommended to the Chief appointing this Laman, a Massimo Sultan, because I went to school with him. So Leo did a very good job. He mobilized the people, united the people of Buka, we were down at Guinea. And we worked out the highest autonomy for Bougainville. That we got on Guru, Independence National. And Leo smart fellow. He convinced the people, yes, the highest autonomy, for the sake of unity, is as good as being independent. But we had bureaucrats here who didn't understand. Bureaucrats here who didn't even want to listen to me, the legitimate regional member of the board. And I was the Minister for Decentralization. They wouldn't listen to me. They were being advised by somebody else who knew absolutely nothing. So don't blame Bougainville for what they're doing. They have compromised so many times, and PNG has let them down. Well, who kind of like broke us up? Well, what's there for us? Nobody's going to listen to us. So what I'm saying is, consultative and consensual order decision making is a legitimate and a good way of reaching agreement between, warring parties. The Prime Minister, it's not too late for you. Look at the one, look at my last now. But, we the government tried very hard. And because we had bureaucrats, insensitive bureaucrats who were advising the government, things didn't work out. The other thing I want to say today is that I'm glad, Prime Minister, I heard that you have announced that 2 provinces will get autonomy and to Rwanda. I think all provinces should, as and when they are ready. If decentralization is good, and my advice, I was a minister. I knew a lot about this thing, but there were some ministers who preferred not to listen to me, but to listen to some negative people like, give it to everybody. We thought, yes, everybody will get it, as and when they are ready for it. Because when you give it to everybody willy-nilly, those who are not prepared will make a mess of it, and then, in 1995, John Momis, our colleagues, good friends John Momis, I have made them our colleague. People are in I used to have a parliament. In part 312, you need to start a party, and Chairman also people that you voted against the 1995 reform, which took all the powers back to the center. And I remember saying to the Prime Minister, my dear Prime Minister, you won't be PM all your life. One of these days, you'll be an ordinary member of the people in the environment they want you to be the government. And you'll be having an empty shell. And when I became governor, I was the president of the Bougainville, and he asked me to go on it, because I'm from Wellington too. And he said, you come and talk to all people Wellington. And we were talking to all securities and introduced me. This man, this, and people were going to be the ceremony. Papa will be centralized. It doesn't do the ceremony. Very capable man, but when you disempower people, you stand alone and you will get no help from anybody else. I think this country needs to have highly decentralized governments to empower the people. And when people are empowered, they'll do anything for the love of unity. As you know, the third goal of the Constitution is self-reliance and national sovereignty. When I was ambassador in China, I visited the Great Wall of China. They told me the Chinese built this Great Wall with mud and rice, because they had no water and things. And they built it in order to keep the Mongolians out to protect the Chinese people. The Mongolians didn't want to climb this wall and endanger their lives, so they went straight to the gatekeepers, bribed them and walked in and killed the Chinese. Papua New Guinea must be careful. People with plenty of money will not come to the villages. They'll go straight to the members of parliament, bribe them and walk in. Big man. So national sovereignty is very, very important for us. Don't undersell Papua New Guinea's national sovereignty. The fourth goal is conservation and preservation, natural resources and environment. And University of Udara, University of Natural Resources and Environment. So it's a very important goal. Our natural resources. Papua New Guinea is such a highly diversified country in terms of topography, languages, that's protected. People are going to now, the leader of more the mangroves. The leaders are making big business, multi-story house that are going within the money. We are the most powerful province in Papua New Guinea today. And yet, we are probably the most corrupt. Sad case. The leader must be a you talk about Sanku, that's a lot of man trying to put my servant. What man? Suppose not, you go on this one. I did not want to be involved in business because I feared that I might be enticed to run my business to the detriment of my business to look after my people. My business as a leader is to serve my people. So when God, that's my God and before God. Fifth God, of course, is Papua New Guinea ways. We must use Papua New Guinea ways. We must be proud of our culture. I don't get sad about it. There's nothing wrong with chewing midnight except when you speak all over the place. Down you, no. Before me say that water, so now we could broke and easy to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Prime Minister, you have a difficult job. I don't know. Even if I was in Parliament today, even if I was offered the Prime Ministership of the Golden Platter, I would refuse it. It's an impossible responsibility. What I'm saying is, it's a responsibility that is being made very, very difficult for us when the people who are supposed to be the public, who are supposed to be the chiefs, the members are supposed to be the Indians. It seems the Indians are having a great day at the expense of the leaders. The Indians have a great day at the expense of the leaders. So I just want to say, I won't go into detail, but one thing we did in the Constitution was, for example, we said, Somalia agreed with us, but when Lord Mountbatten visited, we saw another masquerading from accepting widows and head of state. We don't go the Queen is, our Constitution is autonomous. Power belongs to the people. God is in power of people, voters, but people yet give power to the leader of the world. Sometimes somebody compromise on them big money. People are still, we made a constitution, made a change in the constitution, we made the Governor General totally powerless. We must only do what the Parliament, what the Cabinet tells him to do, and exactly what the Cabinet tells him to do. So he's a figurehead at the expense of our people, because we'll be like damn something out of our country. I think in Australia now is thinking of having their own head of state. A lot of people have something. Our Constitution talks about human rights, my right. But we also include in the Constitution, as well as my right, I also have social obligations. I must also take care of my social obligations. I can't just say, well, I'm Mr. Omi, Mr. Omi got started, we got business, what about the others? No, God. Yeah, the Constitution says you have a social obligation to have your fellow man and woman. I think the problem in that we fail. We fail to conscientize people. We have many people, but we have many people who don't understand the importance of principles and values. Or you can argue with him on an argument and you win things, irrespective of what good you do in the dialogue. So I think one thing we must do now is for the government to engage or to pay money or something, to engage students and others, to go around the country conscientizing the people, bringing their conscience, raising their awareness, to realize that other people are as important as they are. And this creation doesn't only belong to some. This is talk on me, but I talk on some. PNG is a great country. Our Constitution, by the way, has stood the test of time. One of the very few constitutions in the world that has not been overthrown in the war. We come close in some ways like the US respected our Constitution. That is, I think, because we set up 831 committees throughout Papua New Guinea. District headquarters, sub-district headquarters, patrol posts. We flew and we drove to every place in Papua New Guinea. We left behind every committees, asked these questions or these issues, and sent us back your answers, which they do. We, apart from conducting public meetings with so many people, we brought out in 2 groups, we toured the whole country, and in my view, we probably conducted the most comprehensive, extensive consultation process in Papua New Guinea at the time. So under listener, probably the Constitution, and we empowering people. People are the agents of change and development. People, recipients as well. They are certainly not just mere passive recipients of goods and services. They are active agents of change and development, and they are the ones who should determine the kind of vision as Somari was. Somari was a visionary. When people didn't understand, I think he inherited some of our founders' vision. And when I said, "No, the university talked that way about me, I don't think we're going to carry it. We had a vision. He's looking for a mountain and going down the side. That's what a visionary does. And we really need ideologues or visionaries who are prepared to work hard to make the changes in the current situation so that the future will take place. Thank you very much.